Okay, welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we've seen several. We all know how we are taking a hit. The economy. We know some policies have been put in place, set in motion by the government to see how they can mitigate or reduce, cushion the effects of the fuel subsidy removal. There's a panel that has been set up by the government to ensure they harmonize taxes and address that. For decades now, we've been talking about multiple taxation. Manufacturers, several people have lamented in terms of what needs to be done, how it is crippling businesses. So yes, Mr. Taiwo Yedile was with us a couple of days ago to just give us an update on what the committee is doing so far. So we're looking to the presidency now to see how they sign off on that first batch of what they've done. But some more agenda to be set for them here to bring to the attention of the president and the presidential committee. Mr. Derigo Williams joins us now. He's an economist and global strategist. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program here today. Okay, so
good morning to you, Chamberlain.
Okay,
and, Michael,
yeah,
and Bukola. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you have been, you did watch that interview yourself, and about that committee, in terms of what you heard Mr. Oyedele say about the efforts so far, would you say, at least from your perspective, also being in some practice experience yourself, how much success from what you have heard him say should we expect?
You know, Mr. Taiwo Ayodele is a very smart individual, and I think he has a good handle on the matter pertaining to the tax reform and then the fiscal policy review as well. It was on your show, as you said, on Monday. And it was talking about how to eliminate the artificial demand for dollars as part of the key strategy for strengthening the naira. You know, I wasn't sure if it stripped him, but I think that at some point he may be able to revisit that particular point, which is that the biggest culprit in this artificial demand arena, dollar demand arena, is the CBN and their policy that inbound remittances must be settled in dollars by the banks. And this has been going on for about 17 or so years. Close to 20 years. In other words, if somebody remitted dollars to you through the bank, through Western Union, the bank are obligated to pay you dollars. And then you will take the dollars to the black market and exchange it in order to get more naira. But here's the problem. Firstly, dollar is not a legal tender in Nigeria. Number two, if the country wants to adopt dollars as a legal tender, the National Assembly has to pass the relevant laws to that effect. It is practically beyond the purview of the CBN to create a different legal tender. Number three, it creates an artificial demand for the dollars, thereby causing the naira to lose value. Number four, it induces inflationary pressure on the domestic economy. Five, it takes out the diaspora remittances from the mainstream banking arena where its utility is most needed for the importation of goods and services. Number six, it promotes currency substitution or currency preference, a phenomenon that's usually associated with a wartime economy. Number 7, it has fueled an underground speculative economy with about $50 billion under mattresses, according to one financial expert. And the plethora of issues, are almost endless. So how do we get there? How do we get to this dollar settlement problem for remittances? We got there back in 2003. Sorry, 2003, I'm sorry. Western Union entered the Nigerian market back in 1995. By 2003, their market intelligence has revealed to them that some of the indigenous remittance companies were outcompeting them in the area of exchange rates. So in other words, these companies were paying more naira per dollar than the Western Union.
So Mr. Williams, pardon me if I could just butt in there. So does that mean that all of their competitors who saw how these policies came through and the impact it has on the naira did absolutely nothing about it? They didn't bring it to the attention of the authorities if they missed it?
Well, it was brought to the attention of the authorities, but the issue was that Soludo then was the governor of the central bank, and then those things were not of interest to him, incidentally and unfortunately. So the problem continued, and it persists till this day.
So all of those challenges notwithstanding, and then the measures that the government plans to take, or perhaps if you address this, how much impact will that have? I mean, can we substitute that with ensuring that we focus on what some economists also say, look, some of the basic things we need to do here is to ensure we pay attention to manufacturing in this country, that if we do that, the huge demand for Forex will be greatly reduced?
Well, as a growing economy, you'd always have demand for Forex. The more you grow, the more demand you would have for Forex. It's just inevitable, It's like the energy that you would need to produce a particular set of goods. If you increase your capacity, your energy consumption also goes up. So it's inevitable that as you grow the economy, your demand for Forex would also increase. So the issue here is that it's not about the quantity of dollars that you need, right? But your ability to generate exports and to attract foreign capital into your arena. And as long as you're able to do that, once your macroeconomic variables are in place, then all those things are going to, work in your favor. So manufacturing, increasing manufacture or increasing exports, practically means that you're expanding your own productivity. And the more you expand your productivity, the more you would need, Forex, because you're also generating dollars as well, or foreign exchange as well. So it's a matter of some dollars coming in and some dollars going out as well. But, net, if it is positive for you, then that's fine.
Okay, so at the moment, the policies that the government has put in place to ensure that all of these things are working, are you optimistic that we will get some results at the end of the day?
Well, the first thing you would do is to look at your macroeconomic variables. When you look at your exchange rate, right, even till now, after the president had made the pronouncement for the two markets to merge, the two parallel markets are still there. Sorry, the two markets are still there operating side by side. We have the official market and then they have the parallel market. All right. Now, what that means is that firstly, the government is losing revenue. Okay, because you are selling a commodity below its market price. Number two, it's impeding capital inflow because the capital inflow must be recorded or must be transacted through the official window. And the official window today says that per every dollar, the equivalent in naira is 788 naira. Okay, whereas in the real market, the parallel market, which I call the real market, is about 930, naira to the dollar. So people are going to be a little bit more disinclined towards making that capital inflow under those circumstances. So it's important for the government to quickly and without any hesitation merge those two markets. I'll give you an example. If you have $100 on you, it's a rhetorical question. If you have $100 on you and you want to convert it to naira, where do you go? Certainly not the banks. You go to the street trader to exchange it and get naira because the street trader is giving you more naira. All right. So the pricing mechanism must be able to reflect market such that you, with that $100, instead of going to the street trader, you walk straight into your bank and you're able to convert it to naira at that prevailing market rate. So until those two things merge, and until there's a single window for transacting foreign exchange, this economy is going nowhere. And it's something they have to do without hesitation. Absolutely, without hesitation. It has to be done like yesterday. And the process is very simple.
If I may come in here,
Yes.
what you're asking to be done, some might say it would require a lot of work to the extent of looking into the structure of our banking system.
Sorry, say that again, please.
Okay, what you're suggesting, or what the solution you put out there about merging the two markets that are running side by side right now. Some will say if you're saying as it should be done as quickly as possible, there are those who will argue that this might require looking into our banking system. I mean, to say that I have $100 and I want to change, I can just walk into the bank and I'll change and I'll walk out. Some might say it might require a lot of work, and doesn't look like they're ready to look into the banking system in Nigeria to make that different. Do you agree?
Well, I think part of that is psychological, right? Because we need to demystify the foreign currency, the dollars. We need to demystify it. Dollar is just like any other commodities, almost like going to the market to buy garri. Once we have that particular dispensation, then it's going to be easy for us to deal with the dollars or with the foreign currency in that manner. Somebody walks into a bank, he puts up his dollars over the counter. The cashier looks at it. If it is genuine, you exchange it and give him the naira equivalent at the prevailing market rate. That way, that dollar gets into the mainstream of the banking system so that it can be used to import capital goods and services. And that is the thing that this country needs, that is in dire need of. If you look at the cumulative effect over the last 40 years, of this rate disparity or market disparity, right? Some experts estimate that the opportunity cost to the economy is over $1 trillion in the past 40 years. Over $1 trillion. And that is not, nothing to be considered small. And, we've had the likes of Kalu Ijika back in 1986 with a superior economic mind who had adjudicated this matter and said, let the rates merge. And the rates actually converged. But somehow the rent seekers came in and then they tore the thing apart. And so we still have those two parallel markets. The markets must come together. It's a must. Without that, we are going nowhere economically. If you look at it now, even our per capita GDP, right? Some people are saying it's about $2,000 $500. But in real terms, it is about $1,200. That's our per capita GDP. It's very low. Okay. Too low.
Mr. Williams, just real quick here. We're talking about the banking structure, but let's look at this other side about manufacturing. I know Chimlin asked that question earlier. Practically every manufacturer in the country has to import the components they need for their manufacturing, and these are priced in dollars. Even the resources we need in terms of crude and the gas that we need is also priced in dollars. So how would you expect that all of this will work to move the Nigerian economy to where it needs to be? You know what? You could answer that question when we come back from this break. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, and Mr. Williams, you please weigh in on that question.
All right, okay, thank you.
Welcome back. We're still talking to Mr. Derrigo Williams, an economist and global strategist, on the situation in Nigeria as regards the multiple currency markets we have there. Mr. Williams, if you can remember, the last question I asked you before we went on that break had to do with the conversation around merging the multiple markets platforms we have, so to speak. And I directed it at manufacturing, seeing that in the manufacturing sector in Nigeria, almost all the inputs that are needed by the manufacturer are imported and priced in the dollar. So how would that work when you say we should collapse all these things, and how would it affect manufacturing quickly?
Okay. Well, you have to look at the components of the process of manufacture, right? One of the major components of manufacture is energy. The energy cost here is very high. Reason being that the national grid itself is epileptic. Power doesn't come steadily. And so the manufacturers spend on the average between 30 cents to 60 cents per kilowatt hour generating their private electricity. And that is a major cost component of manufacture. You know, when you look at other clients like Rwanda and Gambia, just our neighbors here, you will find out that they have power 24/7. And why is that? Nigeria doesn't have power 24/7. Why does Gambia, and also why do Gambia and Rwanda have power 24/7? And the reason is very simple. It's a pricing mechanism. Here we've decided to adopt what we call the cost-reflective tariff structure, which was, borrowed hook, line, and sinker from Egypt, a land of multiple subsidies, the land of 1,000 subsidies, as they have, 1,000 pharaohs, and they brought it here without looking at the reality on the ground. In Nigeria, the private sector itself has accumulated over 9,000 megawatts of generating capacity, almost double or triple the national grid level. And they are spending, on the average, about $22 billion running, the power infrastructure for themselves. But here, the pricing structure for grid power, ranges from 2 cents per kilowatt hour to 9 cents. No serious investor would come in and do that for you. They are not here to make losses. So until we also get the pricing mechanism right for electricity, we are also going nowhere. Now, when you look at what we did with the gas, back in 1999 when the LNG started, that was the first gas development projects the country ever embarked upon. All right, and what did they do? They decided to export the gas. We need energy. This country needs energy to develop. Why are we exporting our gas to foreigners to sustain other people's economies? Why not use it internally? And today we're also going to install the 7th or the train 7 of the LNG. And that too is a problem. We are struggling with about 1 billion standard cubic feet of gas per day when essentially we need about 5 billion standard cubic feet of gas per day just to run, the energy sector as well as the manufacture, industrial and commercial sectors, also for our homes as well. So these are the issues. So the country has to be serious about, energy, and the way you deal with energy under today's environment is to make sure that the pricing mechanism is reflective of the market. If I'm paying, 30 cents per kilowatt hour, generating my own personal power, right? And if the grid power, NEPA, in other words, in quotes, offers it to me at 25 cents, I should be happy. Not 9 cents, not 2 cents. 2 cents doesn't make any sense. These guys are not here to give you, a service or provide you energy, under subsidy. Why is it that anytime the government is involved in the supply chain of a commodity, they do, they have a subsidy. Why do they do that? They introduce subsidy. Why do they do that? They do subsidy on petrol until they got us to the point where we couldn't sustain it. They do subsidy on gas. They do subsidy on electricity. Why? And the pricing mechanism in an economic system is a fundamental key issue. Until you get it right, you cannot go anywhere. The pricing mechanism must reflect market so that it will be able to allocate the scarce economic resources appropriately. But once you miss that point, right, your economy is going nowhere.
Well, Mr. Williams, while all of that is making a whole, lot of sense, let me quickly take you back to something that you talked about a little while ago, responding to Neota's question. And when you say that, for instance, we should focus some of our resources, like for instance, Nigeria LNG, should focus their resources, their energies into supplying the domestic market. And I think I remember also that the NLNG has said that they are going to prioritize quite some of their productions into the Nigerian market just to ensure that there is gas availability. But do you also factor in the fact that since 2008, according to NLNG themselves, they have contributed no less than 4% of Nigeria's annual GDP, and that they actually also make, I was trying to find out the exact figure, that they also contribute in terms of remittances to the federal coffers. Is that suggestion you are making with or without prejudice to those facts as well, the contribution of that company as a Nigerian company to Nigeria itself?
Sorry, Ayo, I could barely hear a word of what you were saying. Is there any way the guys in Abuja can relay the question to me? Because they are coming to me loud and clear.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Okay, yeah, okay, let's try again then.
Okay, well, I was asking, when you talked about Nigeria LNG focusing their activities on supplying the domestic market, remember that by selling to these other nations, as you have said, they have contributed since 2008, according to their own facts and figures, no less than 4% to Nigeria's GDP, and that quite some money is also remitted into the coffers of the Nigerian government over the years. Is that suggestion you're making with or without prejudice to that forex coming into the country from that company?
Okay, the forex generation by the LNG is really a myth. It's a myth. You know why? All right, so they export the gas, starve the domestic economy of gas, and then what happens? We spend another $18 billion importing generators and diesel and petrol to run our generators, plus the environmental impact as well. So to me, that LNG was a miscalculation, an economic miscalculation. And I think anytime the white guy comes to us to say, do this and do that, right, we just follow through. That LNG is a miscalculation. And so when you say we're earning forex from it, How much are we earning? Federal government occasionally gets about $2.5 billion in dividend every so often per annum, compared to the $18 billion we're spending to import generators. And in this country, we have about 70 million generators running. 70 million generators running. But if the LNG today would turn that spigot, that export spigot, back inwards, for the domestic market, you see that power supply would improve. The economy would improve. In fact, what's holding up the economy from growing, right, is energy. Energy, period. And, people used to brag that, oh, Nigeria was the biggest economy in Africa. That too is a myth. Nigeria is, in reality, is about number 2 or 3 on the continent of Africa, because our per capita GDP is too low. South Africa is about $5,000. Ours is about $1,200. All right. So these are the issues. And then the country also went further to say that they want to do brass LNG as well as OKL LNG. To me, if the first LNG was an economic miscalculation, then the subsequent LNGs would be economic sabotage. And nobody should do LNG for exports again until we satisfy energy use or gas use in the domestic market. Until that happens, no export should take place.
So do you anticipate that Nigeria will be able to generate about the same quantum of revenue and GDP contribution with the suggestion you're making?
Oh, certainly. The energy is here. In terms of the human energy, right? It is here. The entrepreneurial energy is here. What we lack is the ability to mobilize capital and then get into productive activities. Our rate of capital mobilization is about 15%. Okay. A lot of people want to go into businesses, but because of the power, lack of power, they shelve it and maybe shelve it for an entire lifetime. And so these are the things that are happening to us. So when you look at it cumulatively, right, the effect on the economy, or the thing that it extracts from the economy is in excess of, trillions of dollars over, the last 40 years.
Just one quick one from me before my colleague Bukola comes in. Something you said the other time about also responding to questions from my colleagues only raised this question about what Mr. Idele told us the last time he was here, which you referenced earlier. And that's the fact that there are some agencies of government in Nigeria that have to collect their remittances into the federal coffers in dollars right here in Nigeria. I found that a little worrisome. Do you think it is worrisome that Nigerian companies in Nigeria have to pay taxes in dollars?
Yeah, that is worrisome. Again, it's a question of the law. What is the legal tender in this country? Legal tender in this country is Naira. And so anytime we digress from that perspective and begin to engage in activities that are inimical to, the set legal framework, then of course we are doing something that is detrimental to us in the long term, right? And so when Mr. Ayodele, Taiwo Ayodele, chairman of the Presidential Committee on tax reform and all that, said that we were looking into that matter, I think it's a welcome idea that no company in Nigeria should be made to pay dollars. Even foreign companies that are coming here, right? If they want to settle something, let them pay Naira, right? And because they are going to convert their dollars through the banking system. And so that dollar will stay within the banking system for the importation of capital goods and raw materials and all that. So it's a welcome idea.
Well, back to the forex challenges that you began talking about earlier. Mr. Williams. I wonder if you're following the conversation on the DSS investigation into forex allegations, forex fraud allegations leveled against the Asian oil giant Olam. The implications of that amid our conversation, and more importantly, how do you eliminate that interface between the Apex Bank and big-time manufacturers as this who require forex to import raw materials?
I can barely hear you, but what I understand from you is that you're talking about the forex deals that people were making.
The fraud allegations, forex fraud allegations leveled against the Indian oil giant, Singaporean rather, Olam, and the implications for the interface between the Apex Bank, CBN, and other big-time manufacturers who inevitably require forex to import their raw materials.
Exactly. This is the result of operating this dual currency market. When you create those such markets, you create an arbitrage opportunity. People would always take advantage of the difference in or the disparity in the two markets. So it's important that if you were to merge those two markets, right, these frauds are eliminated. You cannot buy today at 9:30 and then sell tomorrow at 9:20. You are going to lose money. So these are the things that they have to curtail. And then two, the CBN is not an authorized dealer in forex. That they should understand that. CBN is not an authorized dealer. They are the custodians of our dollars, and they sell the dollars to banks. The only authorized dealers in this country are the banks, the licensed banks. So there's no way, or there's no reason why CBN will get into the middle of foreign exchange allocation directly to individual companies or to persons. It is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And these are the things that the current investigator should be able to look at in order for them to, try and curb it and then even rewrite the policies of the central bank. Because there are so many things they do that are not fit for a central bank. A central bank cannot issue credit cards. They issued what they call AfriGo. It's a credit card. They could not have issued that under any circumstance. The central bank cannot go and begin to do what you call that digital currency, because it's not called for. So they should stay away from the arena of banking and conduct pure supervisory and regulatory functions. They should not also go into lending. They should not do that. And they should not be intervening in any of the markets. For example, they were running what they call an RT200 program, which meant that, in order to incentivize exporters to repatriate their dollars, they would not give them extra money. Don't do that. That's micromanaging, the entire process. You cannot do that.
And Mr. Williams, we can even expand it further to look at the debate over the propriety of the CBN also handling continuously the anchor borrowers program and the NERSL program. But let's manage our time to look at the work of the Tax Reform Committee set against the backdrop of the mandate of the president that we must achieve 18% tax to GDP ratio, that we must tax the fruit rather than the seed. Does this mean, and if we also consider what the chairman of the Tax Reform Committee has said, does this mean that the workers' income, are going to, the payee on workers' income will be increased? Do workers have anything to worry about in that regard?
Well, that committee, I think, is fully equipped, particularly with Mr. Taiwo being at the head to handle, this matter. I have a great confidence in that, young man to be able to, drive, that entire process. He started out, right, by looking at the low-hanging fruits, things that he could accomplish in 30 days. And some of those things that they could accomplish in 30 days, from our perspective, is that, they could match the two markets. Number two, stop banks from settling remittances, inward remittances, with dollars. That they can do, within 30 days. So the thing about the worker salaries and all that, I know that that committee, I'm sure, will be able to, deal with those issues.
Well, interestingly, yeah, my apologies, Mr. Williams, because we're completely out of time. Interestingly, one of the things Mr. Oyedele also mentioned is that their report is ready for the first 30 days, and they're only waiting for the president to give his perspectives, make it known, and then action can be taken. I'm certain we're going to have to call you again to have this conversation and take this further. But we have to thank you so much for your time this morning. Derego Williams is an economist and global strategist. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts today.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.